And we are synced. It has been a while. Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a spectacular day. Unless you main any of these legends, these two legends, or like these four legends, then I hope your day is horrible. I hope your your croutons are moldy. I hope like every third chip in your chip bag is stale. I hope a Lego stud falls into a vent in your house and you never find it again, and it was a stud you really needed to finish your set. I hope you're having a bad day if you play one of these four legends. But other than that, I hope everyone else is having a great day. And this is my finest tier list yet. My coup d'etat de tier list. Wait, does that mean what I think it means? Well, I don't think it means. Anyways, this is my Popeye's chicken sandwich of tier lists. The Avengers Infinity War of tier lists. I would say it's a Mona Lisa of tier lists, but the Mona Lisa is such an overrated painting, and it's puny, and it's not pathetic, but it's overrated commercialized painting. Blah. Anyway, so the Mordex signature kit of tier lists, but the tier list isn't that good. Nothing is that good in life as a Mordex signature kit. Yikes. Well, it's this Brawlhalla state. The state of Brawlhalla. It's bad. It's always gonna be bad to some degree, but this BMG, it's apparent. The worst thing about Brawlhalla is we all know the flaws with it, and I'm not gonna talk about this, rant about this right now, because this is a tier list, but it just has has some relevancy to the tier list, so I will discuss it briefly. That we all know what's wrong with this game as a very loud car. Just no, it's a plane. Yeah, I don't know how I'm mistaken for a car for a plane, but in college people have their really loud car engines because their PPs are like 1 millimeter long, so they have to have a really loud car engine to compensate, and it's irritating. But anyways, tier list, very bad state. We all know what's wrong with the game. Balance wise, hammer and axe, like low skill weapons. This is insane. This is an insane, utterly crazy idea that I'm about to say. But low skill weapons should be worse. Like I mean that's just me. That's just my take. But if a weapon takes like lower skill to use, it should be worse. And if a weapon takes more skill to use, it should be better. But like that's just my take, Like I don't know. Like if you're bad with a like I mean just I don't know. Like I don't know. This just like I don't know, if you swing being the ability to swing around something in the general vicinity of your opponent, I feel like since that is rewarding for lower skill players, then it should be worse overall, right? Like I feel like hammer and axe should be in D and F, or maybe at best C tier, right? Because it's a lower skill weapon, and we should reward people who are like being who have better spacing, who just exert control much better, who just have a superior skill, right? Like I mean, and those weapons should be higher up. And these two tiers probably should not. This tier should never exist. This tier really shouldn't exist for. But like, that's just my take. But BMG, they're very content with the state of the game. Um, I mean, like you can say they're doing stuff to improve it. No, actually, no, you can't say it. No, you can't say it. Balance wise, they're really content with the state of the game, and they don't care that the best player really left. They're doing these things that whatever, like ledge mechanics. Such a horrible thing they did in experimental. That's way too short, like of a ledge wall hugging. What I mean, the ledge timer is like way too. It's just BMG is just utter. They're ignoramuses. They're morons. They're dumb. They're unintelligent. They're smooth brains. But they can draw well. There's smooth brains who can draw well. I'm not gonna be nice to BMG because they're just so incompetent. Because this is just so stupid. Like this tier list, this is a masterpiece. I am the Da Vinci of tier lists right now, if I do say so myself. But this is so stupid. This should not be the state of the game. This is just atrocious. Like there's like three warning signs with this tier list. I mean, there's more than three, but the fact that Teros is an SS is a huge red flag. The fact that Hattori is in D tier is a huge red flag about the state of the game. And the fact that Ulgrim is an A tier, another red, like there's so many like red flags. Like Ulgrim is better than, wait, Ulgrim and Koji are in the same tier. I stand by that placement, but it's a huge red flag for the state of the game. So, anyways, we all know Brawlhalla. I harped on that for too long, so let's just get into. As soon as I press the record button, it's like an instant need to go to the bathroom moment. But maybe needing to go to the restroom. Well, this is like, speaking of restroom, this is like this the state of the Brawlhalla is just one big urinal. Like it's just disgusting. It's not even a urinal you would want to use. It's like the urinal at the back of a 7-Eleven. But the 7-Eleven just got like hit by like a toxic meteor, and then like Hulk like pooped on it, and then Zol had Taco Bell and he used the restroom, and then EDP used the restroom. Should not mention him, but like you don't want to use that restroom, and that's Brawlhalla State. It's a 7-Eleven restroom. Post um Zol Taco Bell. And it was like holy moly spicy taco night at Taco Bell. They had a sale going on, and Zol he's not good with spicy food, but he did it anyways. And that's what I mean with the loud car engines. Stop it with the loud car engines. I don't care. Oh my god. Anyways, no worthwhile woman cares how loud your car engine is, or man, or other gender for that matter. I mean, maybe men. But anyways, moving on. So, this tier list is the most. This tier list is a masterpiece because it's the most. Or I think it's a masterpiece. This is definitely something you're gonna disagree with, just because of how it's because it's a tier list and there's so many thingies going on here. But the structure is based off of a plus system. So we'll say like 1+ will be signatures, 1+ would be stats, and what was the other plus? Oh, I forgot. Signatures, stats, oh, and weapons. So if you have if the legend exerts an advantage in each category, then that's a plus. So like Mordex, really good signatures plus, really good stats plus, good weapons plus. So he gets 3 pluses, and since they're just so absurd, I gave them an extra plus because they just transcend Brawlhalla. And this is really sickening because we know that these legends should be nerfed, but BMG, I actually think there's like a darker reason why BMG doesn't nerf these legends. Like I really honestly think it's like I don't want to call BMG like sinister because they don't seem like horrible people, but I think they know that they think like the play rates of Brawlhalla as a whole as a game will go down if they nerf these legends because so many people rely on them and play them. So they don't. I think it's deliberate I think it's a deliberate thing that they don't nerf them just so that they don't want the overall play rates of Brawlhalla to be threatened. And that's really like cheesy, absurd, wimpy. That's just pathetic. But I honestly do think it's like understandable to an extent, but it's just really it's a disgusting practice. But I honestly do think at this point it's so absurd. These legends are so absurd, and they've been so absurd for so long, and it's so blatantly obvious that they need to be nerfed. And I think it's a deliberate thing by BMG that they don't nerf it. So so this plus system operates for all such legends, all the way down to Roland, who has just no advantages. In fact, he has disadvantages for stats and signatures and whatnot. There's 3. I'll explain why he has 2 minuses instead of 3 later on in the video. Placement order does matter within each tier. I didn't go like super hardcore. Like I did make this video before, but the tier list did not have not Reno. It didn't have Munin and Arcadia. So I put them there. I feel very comfortable with these placements, but like this isn't like a super, is Munin better than Crosser? Like I didn't super science it out, but the general placements make sense, and I think I agree with it overall. One more thing before I get into it, as I will explain that you might be thinking, come here, what are you talking about? Why is Koji's in tournaments, but he's only in A tier? Jala's in tournaments, so she's only in C tier. You should not be Pugsy. Is just built different, but you should not be playing Jala. But Pugsy has the pass. Pugsy has the N-word pass. But like you might be wondering why Tori should not be playing it. You don't use it Tori in a tournament. Like I don't know why unless you're in like South America, you're not gonna get away with using Hattori in tournaments. But you might be saying why is it like this? Why are certain legends that perform in tournaments so low, and people are getting success with these legends, so your tier list is stupid. With legends like Koji, they exert a kind of stability. Like, these legends are better. Like, Core is a better legend than Koji, but as like a stable pick of what I know of, like just a stable pick, a reliable pick, I know what to expect when I play this legend. I would say Koji is a much more reliable choice than Core. Koji is a much more reliable choice in Core in tournaments. You just know what he's gonna do, blah blah blah. You know what to expect when you have each weapons. You know the flaws, or I don't know. I just feel like he's just a more reliable. He's just consistently good in like all categories, I suppose. But I mean, but Koji is like he's not like the zero represents. He's not like deficient in a category. He's just like solid, if not advantageous to all categories. But Core is just more dominant overall. But I think Koji. I mean, Core is a bad example because he's actually really reliable. But like Sentinel, I could say Koji's a much more reliable legend than Sentinel. That's even though Sentinel is a better legend than Koji. You see Koji more in tournaments, and I hope that makes sense. Core is kind of bad because he's actually. I guess he's. I don't know. He's just a little wonky. Hammer gauntlets is just a little wonky, so it's hard to explain for Core. Okay, so let's break down this list. I hope my phone is still recording audio, or I will be very sad. Let me just press the button. Okay, still recording. Well, I'll trust my phone. This tier list is gonna have to be less than 4 hours long, or 3 hours long, or 2 hours long, because I have a class. Excuse me, in that time. It's about women in women leaders or something like that. Women in oh my god, that's so bad. I'm an ally to women, so I'm taking a class on women leaders. And one of my friends, one of my bestest friends did state, the greatest tubes partner of all time did state that he thinks female legends are better than male legends in Brawlhalla. And I guess that could be a side quest for this video to see if it's actually true that female legends tend to be better than male legends in this game, but it's not looking too true right now. Anywho, so man, I miss the old times when Hattori and Ada, like Bumi's tier lists, are like usually wrong, or like vastly incorrect. And don't even get me started on Sandstorm weapon tier lists. But man, the thought that Hattori and Ada and legends like that could be in this tier. Koji could be. Oh man, those are the good old times. We didn't appreciate it back then. I was in platinum back then. Did not appreciate it. But now as a something, I don't know, something time diamond. I don't forgot how many. 12. I don't know. I forgot. But let's do this. So Koji and Ter. We're gonna break up first. Yeah. Let me just elaborate what I'm gonna do here. So I'm gonna go down each tier and explain how, because this tier list is based off of this this breakdown of pluses and minuses and whatever. So I'm gonna break down how this applies to each legend, and yeah, in each tier. And yeah, let's get into it. So, and then in this plus system, it helps organize the tier list. But if I didn't have it, this tier list should be the same thing, because this is how truly I feel how good each legend is. But this just adds extra structure. It helps me like make a little decisions on legends. Adds more structure to this list, and just makes it better, I suppose. Like Barraza, I would just put him in C be more I usually would put him in like B or something like that. But based off this list, I'm like, I guess Barraza it really is A tier because of whatever. So it helps structure the list, but. The list should be basically not. It should only approve the list. It shouldn't like rapidly shape it. It should just be an improvement to help structure the list, and only shape it for the better. That was poorly explained, but let's go on. So absurd advantage. So let's just do these guys together because Hammer Axe is overpowered. Scythe and Gauntlets are really good. You could say both Scythe and Gauntlets are very overtuned. Scythe and Light will cover like the whole stage basically because it's stupid. Just a little too much. Scythe is a little too much right now. Gauntlets might be a little too much right now. Gauntlets Nair is just, it's always the thing of how gauntlets are, basically always the thing of how good gauntlets are at a given point. Hammer Axe is overpowered, so they get a plus there for weapons. Signature kits, both are absurd. have been inadequate. They've just been horribly. BMG's has been absolutely atrocious as usual with it. Engaging and like approaching these legend signature kits and nerfs, and I've been actually buffed a few Teros signatures in the past, so pluses for that. Stats. Teros is like, it doesn't make. BMG also operates with this utterly stupid notion that, okay, so strength, you can't do much with strength. You can manipulate strength to a certain extent with signature wise. Like, I'm pretty sure that Brynn signatures have more force than Ada's, even though they have like the same stats. And Jiro will have some signatures that hit harder than, or have more force and will hit harder than maybe like even Sidra or like Ember, because it's just stats really operate extreme. Like, they don't. You can manipulate strength via a little bit, signature wise, with force and damage and whatnot. Defense you cannot manipulate, and coincidentally, defense is the best stat in this game. You can't manipulate defense at all. Speed, you can't manipulate speed. Speed is speed, defense is defense. Coincidentally, those are the two best stats in the game, but you can't manipulate, or not so coincidentally, but you can't manipulate speed and defense, which are the best stats in the game. Defense would be the best stat. Speed would be the next best stat. Then attack strength would be the third best stat or second worst stat. And the absolute worst stat in the game is dexterity. And coincidentally, dexterity is the most manipulable stat in Brawlhalla. Man, I wanted to get right into the tier list, but this is important to break down because it's very important for all Brawlhalla tier lists, basically to the end of time. Is since dexterity is manipulable, low dex legends will be better in this game because you can manipulate dexterity and make it irrelevant. BMG has this really stupid idea where they want to, when a legend has a flaw, they want to sometimes, not always, because you have legends like Ada, right? But sometimes, of course, I bring out Ada because I main Ada, because I'm the greatest Ada man in the world. Schwarpy ain't. Don't make me laugh, Schwarpy. So because you have Mordex and Teros and Sentinel and Onyx and Thor and Fait, like, where dexterity is an actual weakness of that they have. However, you can manipulate an Ulgrim, and you can manipulate, and they've been doing this a lot with Ulgrim. I mean, they've been doing, even Queen Eye, they've been doing this a lot, where they'll make dexterity less and less relevant to circumvent the flaw, to lessen that flaw with the game. Like, Queen Eye has been buffed in like a recently. I mean, it's so hard to say recent, because patches like they're have such weird frequency rates for this game. But it might not be really consequential for the meta, but Queen Eye was buffed to make her signatures faster and recover faster and whatnot. And that's the sign that BMG will still continue to do this. It's a horrible sign that indicating BMG's incompetence and ignorance to what the game needs. Or maybe I don't think it's ignorance anymore. It's either stupidity, which is kind of synonymous, or just like they don't care. They're just bad, but they're whatever. Let's not get into BMG, but it's very important that dexterity is manipulable. So low dex legends will be manipulated to make that low dex less significant. So less dex legends will be better in this game since the stat is manipulable, and they can make it so less dexterity will become an advantage, because now you have stats in more excuse me. You have stats in the categories that you can't manipulate, categories that are better than dexterity, like speed and defense, and even strength sometimes. And that's bad, because then the high dex legends will have a propriety to be lower and be worse and bad, and then the state of the game is bad, and it's just a mess. It's just like an utter like crazy like puke thing. It's like Trail makes chaos that this is this tier list. This is not a healthy state of the game tier list, guys. Let me get this straight. This is not what a Brawlhalla tier list should look like. It's very showing when Bodvar is not in C tier. It's very telling of the state of the game. Especially when Bodvar is above Koji. We should hone on this, where when Bodvar is not in C tier and when Bodvar is above Koji or even like Val, this is extremely telling of the state of the game. So as you can tell, this is a really poor state of Brawlhalla. especially when there's so much distance between. Like, I guess we can talk about these 3 legends because they should be indicating the state of the game, I suppose. But like Hattori's being outdated, but we'll get into Hattori being outdated later. Let's get back into this. I think I've highlighted enough SS tier of how what makes these legends so stupid. So let's move on to S tier. So Rayman has good stats plus really good weapons plus, and he has good signatures, so pluses across the board. Of course, I will value for hammer and axe. It's like they're like inherently weapons that just kill on their own. So I will their signatures on those weapons are legends with those weapons or on those weapons in general. Or I value them less. However, it's still Rayman still has good signatures for those weapons. Even a really highly unfairly advantageous signature broken on release. And I think on release on Gauntlet's D-Sig, which is stupid, but BMG is stupid. Bodvar, good weapons plus, good signatures plus, good stats plus. Bodvar got sword downsig, very notable, should probably be nerfed. Wu Shang, extremely good signatures. We've been talking about this for years, so it's literally just years on how atrociously overpowered some signatures are. So we don't need to get into that really. Even though he has high dexterity, he still has really good stats, which is he's just built different. The bald man is just built different, and then weapons, like even though he has a spear and spear isn't real, it's like a mid-tier weapon. His spear kit is like spear size signature and even spear end signature, but it has some interesting hitboxes. It's just so good. It's just such a strong, like even though and even though he doesn't have gauntlets, the spear downsig that you necessarily want for spear, it's just that the spear size signature is so overpowered and the spear end sig is so good. And his gauntlet kit is so amazing with this, like, it's just, I think his gauntlet kit is just incredible. And it puts him, gives him the plus, even though his weapons might not necessarily think of them, not necessarily what you think of when you think of overpowered weapons. Oh, my nose, excuse me. Val, like, her stats are super sexy, beautiful stats. Her weapons are really good. And her what was it? And her signature stats, signatures really good stats, but like all around basically always a good legend. She's not always like the most hard hitting legend. In the past, her signatures have been hit harder than what her stats would suggest. And BMG nerfed has had some really poorly approached signature nerfs with Val. They nerfed breakdance. Her sword D-Sig, which is really stupid in my opinion, especially to the extent which they nerfed it. Just, I don't know, it's just really weird. But Val is really good as usual. Should be probably in a healthier game state. Should be like probably one of the best legends in the game, like above Rayman. She should be above Rayman, Bodvar, and Teros for sure. Like these 3 legends should not be better than Val, but Val is still extremely good. We're going to see lots of Val, which is also very reliable. Oh, my nose. Okay, excuse me. It's just smelling this game just gives my nose makes me want to die. Okay, core stats even though it's on the slower side, I still think the stats are good. Sometimes like you only need 5 speed really in this game. As long as you have 5 speed, you're basically you usually operate perfectly fine. So core, you can give him 5 speed. Even if you have 4 speed and high dex, then it's still perfectly fine. So, you might not always feel the most comfortable as like a speedy boy, but as like a speedy boy Nyx or something. But it still is very. It suits the need. It does the job. So signatures, stats plus weapons, both are extremely good weapons. And Core has some stupid signatures right now. His N-Sig on his hammer kit is just stupid. Down-Sig is kind of like, I wouldn't really use it that much. But his hammer side signature is utterly just atrociously bad. I can't believe that hasn't been fixed. I mean, atrociously bad. I mean, atrociously like bad balance-wise. bad balancing. It's an extremely great signature. Like why it covers so much. It's just wow. And Ensig on hammer is also very good. And gauntlet signatures they throw you to the depths. They're good. Caspian as Boomy and Sandstorm predicted like 2 years ago, 1 year ago. I don't know. They've been talking about this for a long time. And of course, BMG is predictable, and their the one thing BMG is predictable in, it's that their stupidity. Caspian is overpowered now because guitar side signatures are utterly stupid, and his Gauntless Ensig is still stupid. So good stats, good great some stupid signatures. His weapons do fulfill the same purpose, so that's why you don't see a lot of Caspians, despite his being kind of a stupid legend, utterly overpowered in so many categories. Guitar side sig is atrociously overpowered. Like why? But his weapons do fulfill the same purpose, so you won't see a lot of him in tournament. But even though are those close range weapons, that guitar side signature and the fact that both weapons are not bad. Cadence is really good. Guitars is solid. I say he gets a plus in that category as well. Sentinel takes no skill. Even he's been nerfed and he has had some changes a bit, but it's been if I remember correctly, there were also some very poorly approached changes. I believe with the if I do recall with the hammer signature changes. Hammer guitars, good weapons. Hammer's overpowered. He has low dex, so it makes he has great stats. Like very underrated stats, and good signatures. And hammer signatures are less valuable because it's a hammer, and it kills everything's a kill move besides sidelight. But his hammer signatures are still really good, very good, or very solid. Actually, no, I'll say good to very good. And so Sentinel, good legend, very I would say underutilized from guitar. Actually, no, I would say he's underutilized from guitar mains. But I guess they want more consistency and give. Actually, no, I don't know. Guitar mains have not been too prevalent in the competitive scene, even though guitars are kind of maybe probably because of the guitar hammer matches. But anyways, moving on. Brynn is always very good, but she put her in S tier. I put her in S tier this time because I think she offers so much spear and axe. No, that gets a plus because we have an axe, but they offer so much together. That's such a consistently you know what to expect kind of deal. Where I give Brynn an S. I think that's just a definite plus, even though we have a spear and spear's not the best weapon. Stats are Brynn feels great, just utterly beautiful, majestic stats. They're almost as good as the stats you can ask for, almost. And then you have signatures, and Brynn signatures are just always great. You could say they're overpowered sometimes in some aspects, but Brynn is a great legend. Just really should not be an S tier, because axe should not be as strong as it is. In a healthier game state, Brynn would be an A or B tier, probably A tier, but because of how absurd axe is, I have to put Brynn here because she's great. Onyx Cannon is not a great weapon, but she has gauntlets, and because of the signature kits, it makes up for her having a cannon, so that's a plus. Signatures are great, like I said, so that's a plus. The gauntlets are so good, normally you might say, Kavir, you're not sticking to the plus systems. She has cannon. And that's not, but it does the signatures and stats. They these categories. They do affect how it can affect each other a little bit, because it's just how Brawlhalla works. If I had really good weapons, let's say I had guitars, we had Ragnir, but I feel a legend like Munin. Let's say we had Mordex, right? But he had guitars. Well, guitar dex actually does matter for guitars, so we would give him a negative for one category, even if he had guitars. I don't know, hammer. Mordex would still have a minus or something or a 0, because it does. These categories do affect each other a bit to some. This is how the game works. So anyways, Onyx plus for weapons. Plus for signatures for sure. You might could say some of her signatures are overpowered still, but Onyx has been overshadowed because of Mordex exists. You have like insane like Gauntlets legends are like extremely good. Like look at this. We have look at this. Look at all these Gauntlet legends we have, and these like that's insane. So you might not going to see much Onyx, but she's still very good, and her stats are extremely good because she has low dex. Thor, hammer, orb, very good weapons. Thor, tanky, very good stats. Thor, signatures, very good, even though he has a hammer. His hammer signatures, hammer side signature, hammer DC could say they're overpowered, but they do give him an advantage even though he has hammer. Petra, orb gauntlets, plus. Stats, definitely a plus, even though she's squishy. Just because of how hard she hits, it's like Ada, she hits hard even though she's squishy, but Petra hits harder, and is Petra faster? I don't recall, but she hits so much harder that it circumvents the squishiness, and she has really good weapons and gauntlets and orb. So that's a plus, and then she has good signatures, gauntlets and sig extremely good. Orb side sig is kind of underwhelming, but all signatures fulfill a purpose, and all signatures are good, even if some are more niche. Like even if her like orb and sig isn't overpowered, but it's very like it fulfills a purpose and fulfills it very well. Pluses on all categories. Fate, signatures good, stats like we all know. Fate's just a complete package. Even though like Petra, she's not the most tanky legend. Just of how hard she hits and how good her signatures are, it compensates for that a bit too well. So I'm gonna go. These legends got like a bit more elaboration, but I'll give these legends a little more elaboration. But these legends will go a bit faster through because they don't have so much claws, and they don't clutch the meta and like try to choke it out and stuff like that. They're not like abusing the meta. They're not like the Amber Herds of the meta. But anyways, Munin, she gets a plus for signatures, plus for weapons. I'll give her a 0 for stats because whoa, wait a minute. Would I give her Munin a 0 for stats? Let's look at Munin stats again. Munin stats, Brawlhalla. Like she is a bit squishy, but this is a good setup. I mean, I don't think this is advantageous. These are just good stats. These are just a solid stat thing. I might consider putting her in plus. Do I want to put her in plus? She does what she needs to. I guess I might have to put Munin in plus, and I think Ragnir has to go in plus because Munin, good stats, good weapons, good signatures, so I guess she has to be strong advantage. Ragnir, it feels a little weird because Ragnir's not destroying the meta right now, but good signatures. Because Qatar Ensig is extremely cheesy. I'm noticing that more and more as I try to avoid it. I've gotten hit by it a few times, and it's like, oh, there's my stock, even though I was in orange. And Ragnir mains are using Qatar. So watch out for Ragnir mains who are bad at the game and will use Qatar Ensig to compensate for their being bad at the game, because Brawlhalla caters to that so well, that phenomenon of people compensating for being bad at the game and taking advantage of overpowered things at the game. Anyways, and his weapons are good. He has guitars are solid, and axe is extremely good, so I guess I have to put these boys in S tier. Now let's go to advantage. Cross. Signatures. Okay, so first go stats. Stats plus. Weapons are not crazy, but he has gauntlets, and it's a pretty cool, interesting combination. Gauntlets, blasters plus. So, and you could say his signatures are a plus, but the fact that he does have gauntlets and blasters, which isn't like blasters aren't overpowered, combined with the fact that his signatures are a little like they're good, but they're like a little wonky and like a little semi unreliable. Like they're like that wonkiness with cross. I'll put one thing all the good parts of those two aspects of those aspects of Cross's signatures and his weapon combinations, I'll like lump those into a plus. But all those bad aspects of that, I'll lump into a 0. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. Probably does it, but I don't care. He has thick eyebrows. Persian confirmed. Signatures plus stat. Like Orion's spear kit is like the most underutilized thing from Orion mains in my experience, because they focus so much on the lance, and like the lance end sig is kind of stupid in my. It's a pretty stupid signature, but very slept on signature. Like Orion, everyone knows Orion's signatures are good, but everyone gets so focused on the side signatures that they don't realize how great his spear kit is. Like it's a really good spear kit, and how good Lance Ensig is. I mean, Lance people who main play Orion are aware of how good that Lance Ensig is, of course. But he does have Lance and Spear, and I can't give him a plus for that, so he gets a 0. Nyx signature, very sexy Nyx stats, so he gets a plus. Her weapons feel great, but I wouldn't call that like a really advantageous weapon combo. They're two high skill weapons, and I just don't feel like it's solid. And her signatures are great, but like on Scythe, like her signatures, like you might say they're even overpowered. Like I think some Nyx signatures on Scythe, like if Brawlhalla was BMG was more competent, I could trust them to properly nerf that a bit, and that would be like one of the more pressing issues would be to fine tune some overpoweredness with legends like Nyx and her Scythe signature kit. But alas, we cannot trust BMG to do that, so Nyx will have some slightly overpowered, I mean, pretty actually moderately in some aspects overpowered Scythe signatures for quite a while. But due to her signatures being so, her blaster signatures, not bad, but they're not the greatest. You can find some use for them, of course, but they're not the greatest, especially that Scythe signature. Don't listen to Egg Soup or Nyx blaster Scythe signature is not that good. So due to that and her having blasters, I will give her a 0. Azoth, weapons good, signatures good. I'll give him a 0 for stats because he is on the slower side. Every time I make a tier list, people think I misplace Azoth, but I disagree. Azoth is more of not like a legend you can rely on to be good, but you have a playstyle you have to adjust to. You have to is more of being an Azoth main than just Azoth being good in of himself. Koji, signatures good, weapons good, stats. I don't think his stats are advantageous. I think they're just solid stats. They're like reliable stats, but I don't think that his stats will exert an advantage over his foes. There's not much more to say to Koji. Because Koji, his down signature on bow has been addressed, and much to the joy of the Boomy and the Sandstorm, especially Boomy, I think, maybe. Asuri, is that true? I don't know. Asuri, no, I think it's true. Asuri, weapons, like I could make Asuri lower, but I think the way her signatures engage with her, like her guitar and the signatures interact with each other can actually, I don't know if Asuri should belong here, to be honest, because she has guitars and sword, and that's good. I don't think that exerts an advantage. Like I had her high in A tier, but I might have to put Asuri here. I mean, but Asuri doesn't have a weakness, so this is a tough one. But I have to keep Asuri here because she doesn't exert a weakness. Beside her, like, weapons don't domineer, but she doesn't, like, they're solid, and I don't think Koji doesn't have an actual Asuri doesn't have an actual weakness, so I'll put her here. Stats are good, they're not great, and, signatures are good, advantageous signatures, and they interact with their guitar signatures, especially interact with each other very well, because, you can do dare, then side sig or d sig depending on the dodge read, and it can compensate for lack of Katar's knowledge, or maximize Katar's knowledge really well. And guitar and sword down sig is underrated in my opinion. It was nerfed, but I still think it's an underrated signature, and her sword end sig is underrated as well. So even though Sword and Katars are a little not the most domineering duo, they're good, and we'll give her a plus for that. And I don't think she has any weakness, so she can't be in this category regardless. Scarlet, stats advantageous, signatures advantageous. I could put Scarlet here, but she has Lance. I don't think Lance is that advantageous. Like even though she has Hammer, I don't. Oh, I could put her here, but I don't think Lance is that. Ooh, what the heck? You should be a bit Scarlet. Excuse me. I don't think Lance is that advantageous to have, and it's an interest. I mean, it's the low. I'm a low skill person weapon combo. That you're a low skill person, so you choose Scarlet, so you have Lance and Hammer. But she's good. She's still stupid. Still needs nerfs, but it's gonna just always be like that. So it's not really the side signature Hammer. The side signature ledge guard interactions are very off stage interactions are just still absurd how much it covers when you're edge guarding, but it's BMG is dumb. Ulgrim is BMG is taking a really bad approach to Ulgrim. I might like for some lots of these legends I could just put them in A tier, but it's just the extent. I can't do it because of the extent. Like good signatures plus, stats plus, weapon combo. Like I can't. It's just not. It's good because he has an axe, but just not the extent of a weapon combo. It's just that advantageous. Like these having Lance holds them back from like the reliability of like they're. You could say it's a plus. They got axe plus if they got hammer, but this the reliability of. I don't think their signatures. They have some stupid signatures. Don't get me wrong, especially Ulgrim. I mean, off-stage interactions, but especially Ulgrim because BMG is dumb, and they're approaching Ulgrim signatures really poorly because they buffed his lance signatures and axe signatures and whatnot. They made it safer and faster to use, which is dumb and really helps him really well. You can tell Costelix has been really utilizing that with Ulgrim because his lance signatures they do sync with his kit very well. However, I don't trust Lance enough, the reliability of Lance to put them as a plus. So I will keep them in the A tier, despite their having overpowered weapons. Barraza, another thing of another situation like Orion where no a situation like Nyx where he has some rude signatures, but they're not. Actually, no, I don't think this is a Nyx situation at all. Because actually no, it is a Nyx situation. I'm sorry, because stats good, they're not crazy advantageous. Axe is good, but blasters, they're solid. Signatures are good, but they're not like blaster signatures. Like they're good, they're not like really domineering or anything, but they do fulfill everything you want in a blaster signature kit. You could say it's an underrated signature kit. And axe signatures aren't like the greatest, but they're not that relevant because they're axe, and axe NSYNC will be advantageous. So it's like a mixture of things with Barraza, but I think those mixtures of things can. If you got like the 70% in this category and the 70% in this category, blah blah blah. I think we can like rearrange. If you arrange those his attributes, we get a plus 0 for Barraza. So now as we get into this, A tier was a bit harder for this, but I still think this holds up extremely well and really helps differentiate Cross from Fate, or Cross where you could say due to a factor of combination of things he'll have a 0-1 category, he doesn't have that advantage, all around advantage that Fate will exert. So I think all around, like even with Petra's weaknesses are just so overshadowed, like even potential weaknesses are so overshadowed by her strengths, that I think the plus system is working out very well so far. So now we're 44 minutes in, and we're gonna speed run through this because they don't have these legends. They're not just how the meta's balls in their hands. Like I will stand by this that every single tournament winner that is not like South America tournament because they have less players, so due to them having less players, the skill gap is much more like volatile, and like you have like different like longer differentiations in skill, so to speak. So this doesn't apply for South America, but for everyone else, basically everyone else, EU, NA, whatnot, this tier they will always be at the tournament winner will always be winning with this signature. And you might say, what about Luna? He was playing Jiro. Well, Luna is a coward and a fraud, and was still relying on high tier and SS legends throughout the majority of the tournament. And I do recognize, I do appreciate, not appreciate, but it's good for Luna's sake, for the sake of that, like their player base and legacy, to be playing Jiro to finish things off. But you do not respect people who will buy into that, because buy into you're against a severely lower PR, and you're using Jiro, who has sword and scythe and sword. Like, you use that's still like, you're still a fraud until you truly do not use a legend in the SS tier to carry you through the tournament, or use any of these 3 tiers of legend. But for all people, you will not see a tournament winner who does not use these three tiers of legends. It's just not gonna happen. I hope there's not a recent tournament winner that used, like, I don't know, Jala in one, but it's not. I don't think that's happened, and I truly believe that unless there's a path that changes, like the tiers, obviously, every tournament winner throughout the tournament, they will be playing a legend in these 3 tiers. If not, they will not win a tournament. So I just want to point that out real quick. So here it's a bit more, I don't want to say straightforward, but I'll go through it quicker because they don't dictate the meta as much, and it's a little more obvious that what their weaknesses are, because there's a little more nuance with Nyx and Cross and their alleged, not necessarily weaknesses, but their lack of strength in certain categories. So Volkov will get a plus for weapons. He gets a plus for signatures. His stats, definitely a minus. I don't think that requires too much explanation. Volkov does need nerfs because some of the, like, his scythe and side signature is like covers way too much. Artemis just showcases how stupid BMG is, just the perfect demonstration of that. But I guess every legend does that in some category, or lots of legends do that in some aspect. Stats are actually, she's a speedy girl, but she like commits to being speedy, if that makes sense. It's like, it's hard. Like, some legends, they don't really like, they have like an allocation of stats. They don't like really, like Petra. She's squishy, but she commits to being that glass can so well that, like, she hits so hard it compensates for her low defense. But Artemis, 47 minutes straight talking. Ow. Okay, Artemis, her stats, like, she's a fast scythe is just so powerful that will give her an advantage for that. Actually, will I give her advantage for that? Yeah. Actually, yeah, I'll give her mostly an advantage for that. And then signature is absurd. Landslide signature is what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about it's a failure of BMG's part. It's absurd. Artemis signatures are extremely good. She does have a lance, which does give her a minus, and her having a lance, along with being squishy, I will give her, say, she slightly has just a slight advantage, but she is disadvantageous somewhat because she does a little squishiness, so that's a little bit of not a true plus, and she has lance, so I'll give her a bit of a minus. Cassidy just fits this perfectly. Not much discussion on my part for Cassidy, because weapons, hammer, so it's a plus, and her blaster signatures are so well that they it's just, her blaster kit is just one of the main, possibly the best blaster kit in the game. Signatures are obviously great, but stats do hold Cassidy back. Stats are a definite issue with Cassidy, because you could be getting better stats with Nyx and Cross, and it's just, is she squishy? Do you want to be squishy? Do you want to be slow? Do you want to be both? It's kind of the issue with Cassidy, even though her signatures are insane. So this really is easy to do with Cassidy. Reno. Orb is good. It's just the thing with Reno. Like, signatures, again, signatures are like I don't think his his signatures are good. His weapon combination is good. I don't think his stats are like mind-boggling. And I do think his orb size signature is like she has some signatures that are not that like mind-boggling. To be like he has some signatures that are good, but some signatures that are like blaster D6, orb side sig, orb down, like that could be just a little. They're not that impressive. So that, along with having blasters, I will give him a minus. Yumiko, hammer bow. Yumiko is one of like the big like if you're is the most fraud what's this fraud friendly legend. Yes, Yumiko is the most fraud friendly legend in the game, where you have bow and hammer, highly advantageous. Signatures are good, and the wispy things they take control so well. They can compensate for having like her. She's such a fraud friendly legend because she has bow and hammer, which both don't take much skill, and they're highly rewarding without taking much skill. The wispy things exert control so well, and it's another thing that can compensate for skills lack of skill so well. She gets a minus for her stats, but Yumiko, she's she's a fraud friendly legend. Lots of Yumiko mains do perform much better than they should because Yumiko is friendly to low skill players, but she gets a minus for stats. Diana, stats are great. Weapons complement each other very well because bow is just so versatile, so it just helps. But her having blasters, and even though her signatures are good in some extent, she does get a minus due to the combination of her having an atrocious blaster signatures and having blasters not being advantageous. That will give her I'll give her a minus for that. Like like I said, these categories do affect each other, and like being not so strong in one category will make me more liable to give you a minus or a 0 in another category. Thatch, signatures good, really like Thatch has some highly underrated. It's getting becoming more prevalent that Thatch's sword signatures are really strong. But and his weapon combination is extremely good. But the fact that he has blasters, along with even though you can stats, you can make them advantageous. They will present a weakness of him being squishy, and that combined with blasters, I will give him a minus. Even though you can, if you do strength stance, you can have a Petra situation where you can turn a weakness, you can cover up a weakness very well. But I still think his having like weapons that are not like overpowered or anything will give him a minus. Vraxx, signatures, plus stats plus signatures plus stats, kind of a plus. Weapons, so we'll give him a minus because he does have a disadvantage in some aspects. Jiro, stats would be the minus, but it's a little bit of issues because his stats are starting to not match with his his stats are not trying to match with like what he actually is in the game, dexterity wise and strength wise, because of the buffs he's been receiving to make him relevant. But he still has a weakness with the defense. He still get a minus because of that. Plus, because he has a good weapon combinations. Plus, because of signature. It's not a complete plus, but it's not a complete minus with stats either. So that will in turn result in a minus. Hopefully this makes sense. My logic through this. If not, then this has been a sad, painful video for you. Vector. Signatures plus weapons 0. Signatures. I should have made this list the day I made this tier list. So I could forget some things, but signatures plus ish, because it's like the land signatures are like no one knows how they work, to be honest. No one really. It's still a mystery, even though he's been released so long ago. And the weapon combination is just larg. Oh, I'm gonna stretch it out. So he has an advantage in some aspects with the signatures and with some aspects of the stats. However, the weapon combination combined with with the lance signatures being a little weird does give him the 0 and the minus and put him in neutral. Zol, he does get. I do give him a minus-ish, because like the Stee is squishy, which is a disadvantage, but he has a high strength, right? But he also has cannon. And like I said, this plus system is falling apart. However, still holding up. We're staying true to the plus or minus system. You just got to be flexible with it. um, he has axe. He has advantages. He has things that are but he also has disadvantages, so neutral. This is very easy for Jala. Weapons plus signatures. They're pretty good, but they're not like that insane. 0 stats minus. I might put Jala here because those signatures are solid. I actually might put Jala up here. Actually, I don't know. It's really the extent of her being squishy. Being defense is just so valuable that I can't. I want to push her up because she does have this. Her signatures aren't like or lingering more to a plus than a 0. I mean, but more than a plus than a minus. But it's just that minus of being squishy is just so great. Arcadia is just, she has advantages. She has disadvantages, obvious disadvantages, and she has things that are just about her. And I haven't seen someone really just capitalize on Arcadia so much, like really maximize her signature. So she'll be a neutral. Jaeyun, he has some good signatures. We'll go a plus for signatures. But I'm not seeing like Great Sword. Like the weapon combination is just Like I'm not seeing, I don't know, Great Sword, and the stats are also and I don't know where to put Great Sword. I'm not sure having Great Sword isn't necessarily a weakness, but right now like no one is truly utilizing Great Sword to its best extent. Hardy MJ, don't get me. He's not a true top 10 player. Like don't even get me started on that. But no one's been really pioneering Great Sword. Like no one that like a top 10 player, I don't consider Hardy MJ a top 10 player, has been pioneering Great Sword. So advantages, yeah. Disadvantages, yeah. I don't know really what to do with Great Sword on this list, as you can kind of tell. But I say he has advantages, and weaknesses. So Sidra, I put her stats are good. Her signatures are goodish. It's kind of like a range of you have some good and some bad. And she has some weaknesses with some because she has cannon. So we'll say plus 0 minus for Sidra. So she's just neutral. Ember, great signatures. But she also, great bow signatures. And, okay. Remember, picky. You gotta be very specific. You can't just say Ember has good signatures. I don't really kind of have a problem with that because that's not necessarily consistently true. In fact, overall, that's kind of false. Because side signature is extremely good, end signature is extremely good, down signature both side signature is extremely good, both end signature, everyone talks about that. Both D sig, not that good. Qatar side sig, not that good. Qatar D sig, it's good, I guess. Qatar end sig, not that good. So you gotta be careful. But so she has that, which was a little bit of like an thing. Her weapons are solid-ish, right? And her stats are squishy, minus. So plus 0 minus, not much more to say about Ember. Mirage is another situation where you can't say she has good signatures and you can't say she has back signatures. You have to like go into depth with what you're talking about with Mirage. You can't say she has signatures. You have to like you can't just like say an offhanded comment when you're talking about Mirage, her being good, bad, or You have to like elaborate because her down signatures are both good. Her scythe NSIG can be good if you it's kind of like you have to use it like in terms of her kit, but it's not as forgiving as like a Diana or a godforsaken Mordex. So how well you can use it in the kit, it's much more avoidable and not as intimidating as that. Side signatures are both they're hard hitting when they can perform well, and Mirage side signatures scythe spear scythe signature is such a beauty. It works so well. It like just so looks. I mean, it works so well to when I use it. It's just art. The way I use Mirage scythe signature is so amazing. But it's just a beautiful looking signature. If you could leave it off of S, and we're back because an hour is the limit for recording. So it's just such a beautiful looking signature. If I could give, if this is an aesthetic tier, let's put Mirage in A tier. But back into focus. Her stats do possess weaknesses. Her weapon combination is not the most intimidating, and her signatures are not the most like, they're good in some aspects and they're in some aspects of the side signatures. So she's you can rearrange for like this. This is becoming harder and harder. This has become harder to do than I expected, but I think it's still relevant. You can rearrange like these things neatly. Like, I think I should explain this. I'll explain this later how I rearrange things in my head, but we'll just say that she has advantages. She has things that are and she has weaknesses to her, and that's really this stats are kind of just wonky, where she's just a step slow, and it's extremely frustrating with Mirage. You could put her in B tier, but for her the dex does not work out as well as it does with these boys. And she has 5 speed, which makes her dex a little more important. So it's just, and her strength does not totally compensate for how a little step slow she is, especially when she has spear. His dex kind of makes spear feel better. So she has advantages, disadvantages, and Magyar. Oh my god, he's gonna be hard to talk about, because I still think that Magyar is underrated, because people were like, oh my god, Magyar's so bad, he's slow. Well, I mean, 4 speed is not great, but you can give him 5 speed, and like I say, signature kit's not great, but he has hammer. You don't really need a good signature kit with hammer, because it's a killing tool in of itself. Greatsword is just Greatsword being, we don't know where Greatsword really, I don't really know where you might know, I don't know where Greatsword truly lies in the Brawlhalla world right now. So we'll put Magyar as, I do think with him having hammer, and like, I do think Magyar still has things going for him. I do think, but he also has things that are and you could say he has some disadvantages because he's squishy and some of his signatures aren't great, but I don't think he's a terrible legend, and I will stand by that. Nash, stats are great. Weapons are Signatures are The combination of and yes is we'll put that in a 0 and a minus, but the stats are good. But the signatures are just, he doesn't have that spear downside that you want. They're not, and he has like a weirder, not a weirder. I mean, it's kind of the same style of signature, side signature on Spears Miragi, but it's a and that would put in a 0 and a minus. Mako, I'll put her for weapons. I'll have to give her like a minus or a 0. Signatures, definitely a plus. Stats, again, she's squishy, makes it go give her a 0 or minus. I'm not gonna harp on Mako too much because that's kind of complicated, it's kind of complicated and kind of counterintuitive to discuss, get into those complications when I don't truly understand how good Greatsword is. But Mako, we all know, has some stuff, signatures are really good. I will not accept that Mako is a bad legend. It's not an acceptable opinion in my take. I don't think you can call her a bad legend. I don't think it's an unacceptable opinion. Because she does have some things going for her, especially with how good the signatures are. But and how forgiving some of those signatures are, but yeah. Advantages, disadvantages. Okay, Lucian signatures, definitely. This Blaster signature kit is extremely underrated. Like, this is an all-around really good Blaster signature kit, but he does have that weakness of being a flower petals boy, so that's a minus. And his weapon combination, they complement each other. They're not two great weapons, but they complement each other very well. So we'll give that like an 0. I'm saying a lot in this video. I should probably just say 0. But yeah, advantages, yeah, and then he has some disadvantages with the being hard to kill with, because of flower petals boy. Zariel signature, like Zariel's a really complex one to put in a tier list because he has advantages, but he also had like all across the board like signatures and stats. Like there are weapons, there are advantages with him. There are things that are a little bit just like not good, not great. Because you can say, oh, the speed makes this feel like not that great, or like this signature will not. I mean, I might put do I put Zariel higher? I had a train of thought yesterday that was very clear of why I did not put Zariel any higher or any lower. Oh, we're stretching it out, boys. And girls and whatevers. You identify as whatevers. Yeah. There are things that are meh about him. And there are disadvantages. This being slow is a disadvantage, and even though some things are so good about him, the signature kit can be so advantageous in some aspects. But some signatures are a little more niche, and he's slow, so I have to put him in neutral. This we can breeze by this a bit more because it's kind of a little bit more clear. But stats are a disadvantage. Signatures aren't the greatest. Weapon combo isn't the greatest. We can give her a plus because of weapons reliability and the signature's reliability. We can give them a plus for both of that. But you have to give her a minus because they're not as explosive and they just don't compete with the current meta. And that's really sad because Tori should be a solid legend, but she's not like this hard hitting tanky meta where you're like these hard hitting tanky legends. They recover quickly. They give so much bang for your buck, and Hattori just can't compete. She's just not built like that. She's like a 1970s NBA player compared to like today's NBA. Giannis Antetokounmpo, El Pollo Loco, and Joel Embiid. Like she's just not that athletically dominant force. She would be like, who would she be? She's like a post-injury Monte Ellis or something. That's not 1970s, but it's not like you'd get any sports references. So, anyways, moving on. She's like a Larry Bird, maybe. I don't know. I think Larry Bird would still do rather well in today's NBA, but you get somewhat of the idea. Kaya, she just doesn't kill. Like her stats, you think they're good, but it's just the fact her weapon combination in conjunction with her stats is not good, and she doesn't kill, and her signatures aren't like super wowsy that can make up for that. So 2 minuses and a plus. Isaiah, weapons are a minus. Stats signatures are a minus as well, even though you can find some. They're not like useless, totally useless. They are. He does have the end stick on blasters. And I guess the down stick on cannon is situational, a little niche, but it's a minus, and then he gets the plus for stats. Ada is like the inverse of Isaiah, and I'm not talking about just in skin color and gender. Signatures are a plus, weapons are a minus, stats are a minus, very obvious. Dusk, signatures are a plus, but he also like signatures are a plus and stats are kind of not that bad, and his weapons are not that bad, but just because the spear kit is that bad, which we'll have to give him a plus, then a minus and a minus. Lin Fei, you could say she has an advantage. Why does she have an advantage again? Why did I put her here? Oh yeah, because you can say you might be able to do a 3-hit true combo. I'm not sure if that's true anymore, but I think it's true. We can do a 3-hit true combo on Katars if you do the deck stance on Lin Fei, possibly. And her signatures are actually functionally not bad, like in a functional sense. Not like, I mean, they're bad in conjunction with everything else going on with her, but in a functional sense, that's actually not true. They're not bad. They're bad in conjunction with her stats, but they're good signatures in conjunction with her weapons. So what was your plus minus because she's also squishy, and then she also has cannon. So Queen Eye, she has weaknesses. I will give her a plus because she does have that little strength of that conjunction of her signatures and with her signatures and her like some of her signatures like you can play Queen Eye in a way where you get value out of her. Like I know some pro players and like STP Wilson will like vomit profuse like poop their pants aggressively, but you can play Queen Eye in a way where you can get definite value out of her because she has the signatures that are just whooshy, high range and covering large amounts of space and stuff like that. And she's tanky, and she even though she's egregiously slow, so it makes her you can't really use her in ones, but you can still get value out of her. So I'd say she does have an advantage. And Roland, he does not have a 0 or anything because I do think I should put a 0 there. I can't really. He should have a 0 actually. He has like his stats aren't good at all. His weapons are just lance and the weird weapons. Stats aren't really that good, but he does have high defense, so I don't think it's so fair to give him as minus minus minus, because you can use his signatures in a way where you can get a little bit of value out of them, and you can use his stats in a way where you can get a little bit of value out of them. So even though overall he's a strongly disadvantageous legend to use, I do think there are some things that give him value where it's just an eh. So this is my tier list. My plus or minus system, it really became overall. I thought it was just gonna be like a really strict signatures. Like next time on tier list, I won't underestimate how. Because I always thought we could really like a really obvious stats, signatures, weapons. But as you can tell, like we had like let's just say we had like I'm gonna explain this with a visual. And maybe I'll put this as a preface. I'll have to explain this tier list much better because I think this will really help. So I might put this link. So if you were just finishing this video, or if you just came here to not understanding the tier list, this will explain it because it's become relevant to me that this is how this tier list is operated. So I did want to just do stats, signatures, weapons, but just because legends have signatures can vary, and especially because BMG isn't as consistent. Like they don't give like they're just it's just some things get a little wonky with like a legend having both some great signatures, some signatures, and some bad signatures. Is that true? Actually, signatures. Yeah, she has some bad signatures. Like just great signatures, bad signatures, and signatures. So you can't really neatly do this. So how some of this will operate, or for many legends, is how it operates. Is let's say we have this, where we'll say this is signatures, stats, and like weapons. Or we can say like a legend's weapon. Like let's say this was like a legend with like like this Vraxx with Blaster's Lance. I think it's just actually this is perfect. I think because has a minus. So for Vraxx, this is a perfect example of how this tier list will operate. The signatures would be this. Stats would be this. Weapon, actually no. Actually, it would be fair. Well, let's just say for the sake of argument that signatures, stats, and then weapons. So we can say just because of how good the stats are. Maybe we should have said weapon stats, but whatever. We should say how good the stats are. Like they're not great, so they're not all the way to the top like his signatures. But they're not bad stats, right? Again, just buy in with me. This is not actually how the classes would break down in this scenario. But let's just say they're here. They're not the stats aren't great, but they're goodish, right? But they're not like this is plus, and they're not truly in plus tier. And the stats aren't true, and the weapons aren't truly in minus tier, which would be empty. However, we would relocate this to this just based on how it's not truly a plus. This isn't truly a minus, so we'd put the a little bit of the water into here, so get 2 pluses and then a minus. Hopefully that makes sense. Like 0 would be here and plus, and not truly a plus, not truly a minus. So relocate this to this, so get plus plus minus, and that would be Vraxx. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll do this one more time. So with, let's say, Volkov would be, actually Volkov is kind of describes by the plus system rather well. Artemis would be like signatures. Actually, Artemis does this really well. Signatures, weapons, and signatures, stats, and weapons. So we could say, oh, her signatures are at a plus. What? You can buy this for $4 with a subscription. You can rent an image. Nice. Signature. Wait, no, that's not renting. You can buy it, but with the subscription. Yeah. You could say Artemis's stats are. I mean, Artemis's signatures are here. Artemis's stats are here. Artemis's weapons are here, right? Hopefully that wasn't reversed, but we'll just go with that for now. But I didn't say that something different the first time I went through this before I got distracted by buying the idea of buying, a premise of buying, the notion of buying a stock photo. So you could go, since she's not completely a minus in one category, and she's not completely a plus in another category, so to relocate it, so it'd be 2 pluses and then a minus. So it's nice and neat. So it'd be signatures, stats, weapons. Our weapons aren't the best weapon combination, and our stats do have issues, but we can like relocate it. So we can put the emptiness of the stats, of the squishiness, into the weapon combination, and we can put the fact that she has Scythe into the fact that her stats feel so good on Scythe. So to have 2 full glasses and then an empty glass. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. If it doesn't, then you can just, the tier list still can operate normally just by looking at it. But I hope this system, even though I think next time I will do something that's a little more, I mean, it's kind of hard. I'll try to think that there's a better way to structure it, but I think this is as good as a way as I can currently think of right now. But hopefully that structuring system of the pluses makes sense. If not, of course, this tier list still operates normally. For screenshotting purposes, I could do this. I guess I could do this. The tier list will be in the thumbnail, so it's not gonna be. I'm not gonna be hiding the tier list. I mean, will I actually? Clickbait. But yeah, this was a very long breakdown. Hopefully, let's update this tier list. May. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was informational. I really hope the plus or minus system wasn't too confusing. Maybe it was really confusing. Maybe it was really easy to understand. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. This tier list is way too long. I'm very hungry. Have a great day. This should not be the state of Brawlhalla, but I've ranted about that for too long. Well, yeah, this is the tier list. All advantages plus a plus advantage. All advantages, they're in some aspect, have a disadvantage. They're just They have an advantage and a disadvantage and an which makes them They have an advantage, but their disadvantages outweigh their advantages. And they're in one category, but they have disadvantages as well. Oh, I will say before I finish this video, that it's very important that I did have this is you can see that, like, I'll say, wait, this tier list is bad because there's more legends with advantages than disadvantages. Well, I think in this game, it's not like the problem. It's like every legend does have advantages, right? Like, as you can see, every legend except Roland has an advantage. However, some legends or advantages are just stronger than any others. Some legends don't have a disadvantage at all, and some legends are just like we're in some categories. So, and that is very, like, all these legends have an advantage that can be just put the battle in your favor, but they also have disadvantages, and that's really weird. How this game operates in a weird way, where there's so many like legends with crazy advantages, like Artemis Lance side signature helps explain why there's so many legends with advantages. So Artemis Lance side signature puts it's like an unprecedented advantage. It's such a weird one too. It just comes out of nowhere. This crazy, insane advantage to give the legend value or more value. Not that you really needed that, but and that's how and that's really how it affects Brawlhalla, where legends have like these crazy advantages and stuff. And it doesn't really work for balance wise. It just give legends advantages. It just plop like here's an advantage, like just smash, like ploop them with all these advantages. Like that doesn't really work. But because you give like a mismatch of advantages, just doesn't advantageous legends. Like even if this was the state of Brawlhalla, this wouldn't really be balanced. Because that's just not how a healthy game works. Where there's egregious advantages, and then there's also the disadvantages, which makes the balances legends riddled with disadvantages that make the game worse. So it's just like all legends have like if you're not like most legends are neutral of not having an advantage over their opponents, but there's so many legends with such strong advantages that that's why the advantages are there are more advantage categories and disadvantage categories. I hope that makes sense. It probably doesn't. I should have made this made this list. The day I made I should have made this video the day I made this tier list, but it is fine. I can explain things or give. And if people are confused in the comments, I'll be more than happy to give a video explaining the ramifications and details of this to make it nice and understandable and neat. But that's the video. I'm hungry. These legends are gonna win in every tournament. They're gonna do it. Every tournament's gonna be won with one of these legends. And I mean, you stuck with them throughout the tournament. Not just like you went against someone like 20 PR spots below you, so you chose Jiro. No. Throughout the tournament, these are the legends that will be used by the winner. I stand by that. Goodbye. I am hungry. This took way too long.